Okay, all right, let us start. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achayang kamame bante buri panya tathagata kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achayang kamame dhamma sanditika akalika kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achayang kamame sangha supatipana anuttara sa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Tisarana gamanang paripunang panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adina dana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Abrahmacharya veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musavada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Surameraya majjapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Vikala bhojana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Nacha Gita Vadita Visuka Dasana Malaganda Vilepana Dharana Mandana Vibhusanatana Veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Uchasayana Mahasayana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. Idang me silang Magapala Jnanasa Pachayo Hotu Appamadena Sampadeta Sa. Tonight we have to skip the guided meditation because there's a number of questions. We'll straight away go to the Q&A. All right, for today, those who just arrived, very good. Hope you settle down. For the first few days, make sure your walking meditation do it well. Then you'll see some degree of improvement in the clarity of the mind. All right, let us start now. Hold on now. Hold on. Okay. Hold on for a while. Hold on. Let me see something here. Okay. Now we share the screen again. Okay. Question 1. Now, could Bhante clarify mind objects and nimitta, how to differentiate them in meditation? Could Bhante clarify mind objects and nimitta, how to differentiate them in meditation? Now, the word nimitta, when we use the word nimitta, usually we use it for the sake for the samatha objects. Usually, yeah. But the word nimitta has wider meaning than just the samatha objects. Now, the first type of meaning of nimitta, the word when we use the word nimitta, or the first one is the mind created object. Yeah? A mind created object. Like for example, when you do a anapanasati meditation in terms of samatha way, then when the mind created, after develops some degree of in-breath, out-breath, then the mind creates a image, a mental image that is connected to the in-breath, out-breath. So we use the word for that as nimitta. Yeah? We use that as a nimitta. And then there are deeper nimitta, there are different levels of nimitta. As the go into deeper, then this type of nimitta becomes clearer. Okay, so this is the first type of meaning. Now later part, we're going to go back to this meaning again. Now the second type of nimitta is connected with your karma. Karma nimitta, for example, like you have a gati nimitta. Where is it? You have your, let me see. Huh? Then you have uh, uh, Gati Nimitta, and there's another one. What is the name? Kama Nimitta and Gati Nimitta. Yes. The Kama Nimitta or Gati Nimitta, for example. Gati means for the future. Future. That is to say, for example, before you die, just before you die, you so happen to see like what? Fire, let's say, or a cauldron, boiling cauldron. And then your next destination, not so good. You know, oh, sometimes some people see, for example, what do they see? They see like sometimes, you know, their relatives come, yeah, before they die. Sometimes we thought that these people are hallucinating, but it's actually a form of gati nimitta. Yeah. Sometimes, whether it's their own relatives or it looks like their relatives, we do not know. Yeah. Sometimes there are beautiful places that you may see. Yeah. Sometimes, or sometimes there are not only the sea, but another one is the karma nimitta, actions. Actions. Like, for example, before they die, then they behave in a certain manner. Their actions, they act in a certain manner. Yeah. Once in a while, you may hear, for example, no, at least I heard, you know, some people, when they die, they act like a pig. And they act like a pig. They sound like a pig already. Because in their livelihood, they are a butcher. They're a butcher. And then whole life, they accumulate this type of karma. They have this karma, and then in the future, then it's good. So that one also, it's the word, we use the word nimitta too. Yeah? We use the word nimitta. Okay? Now, there's also other other another meaning. Now, in the sutta, another meaning of nimitta is called outward appearance. The outward appearance of a person. Say, for example, sometimes when we talk about sensual desire, when we talk about sensual desire, and then the Buddha says, how does sensual desire arises? Sensual desire arises because the object that you perceive on, it's pleasant to you. How does it being pleasant to you? Because the perception of the appearance of that object, it's for you, it's nice. For you, I know, for not for others, it may not be for others, but for you, it's pleasant. Now, say for example, if you happen to see a person, and then the person is wearing a very beautiful dress. Yeah? So you look at the outward appearance. That outward appearance means the word nimitta, right? They use the word as nimitta. So the outward appearance, the moment that you, the this one touch on it, the eyes that touch on it, immediately the desire arises, the greed arises, the liking arises. So the outward appearance is being used as the word nimitta also. Uh, uh, then there's another one. Another meaning of nimitta, it's object of your senses. There are, in Buddhism, there are 6 senses. 6 senses, that means there are 6 types of objects. Yeah? So these objects are called nimitta also in a certain manner. They are called nimitta too. For example, in the connection with the 5 hindrances, what does make you angry? What does it make you have aversion or ill will? Then that object is unpleasant to you. That means when you see it, hear it, it's unpleasant to you. Uh, so that certain object, that particular object, we also call it as nimitta. And here it's called patibhaga nimitta. It's called a patibhaga nimitta, a repulsive object or a repellent type of object. The mind repels. Then you have sensual object and so on, So the earlier one is the outward appearance of a person or a phenomenon. Whereas this one is a more specific on a certain thing. So it is called nimitta also. Or sometimes another meaning of nimitta is called conditions. Certain conditions. What is the existence? What are the conditions for existence? Then they use the word nimitta also. So you see, the word nimitta is used in a broad context in this one. But in the meditation, usually when we talk about meditation, we use the word nimitta, especially connected with samatha meditation. Now, in the vipassana meditation also, we normally, I don't use the word nimitta during connected with vipassana meditation, because if I use it, then sometimes some yogis get confused with all this type of nimitta. Usually I use the word concept, mind created object, concepts. They are concept. Nimitta is concept also because it's created by the mind. But that one, nimitta usually, most people connected it to samatha meditation. Now, in the vipassana meditation, if we want to use the word nimitta or concept, it also arises in our practice. For example, that day I mentioned, when you look at rising and falling, some people look at rising and falling, watch the rising, falling as it moves. Then the way they look at rising and falling, they perceive that the rising and falling looks like a snake moving, let's say. They conceptualize the rising and falling with as if like a snake that is moving. So the movement of that snake that's connected with the object, then this one, it's called nimitta. Okay, it's called nimitta. But usually I don't use the word nimitta, we just use the word concept. We use the word concept. So now, how do you differentiate between the mind objects and the nimitta? And what is a mind objects then? mind objects, they are not created by the mind. They are not created by the mind. They are there when they arises, when the condition is there. In other words, they have individual characteristics. Whereas nimitta is a mind-made object, they don't have the individual characteristics. When you don't have an individual characteristic, you cannot take it as a vipassana meditation object. Because after you keep on looking at it, there's not going to be the real anicca, dukkha, anatta. There's no real anicca, dukkha, anatta. It's only conceptualized anicca, dukkha, anatta if by going through by thinking and reflection. That is not what we want. What we want is the real one that he has to go through an object which has real characteristics. Now, here the real characteristic of a mind object. Now, the mind object here, this can be your process of thinking, which is because it's happened in the present moment and it got its own characteristic. But the thoughts itself that is produced by the process, those are concept, those are created. Those are created. Okay? So, when you pay attention to your mind object, you pay attention to the process. Seeing, or thinking, or planning. You notice the process as much as you can. But if you fall into the story, if you fall into its history, into its memory, then you get yourself to know who they are, what are they doing, what were you doing, or what are you going to do. You see yourself inside there. That means you already gone into the concept, or you already gone into the nimitta. So this one is the mind objects. So again here, mind objects can be also noticed by its conditions, how conditions are affecting the noticing and also the concept. Take for example, you're walking, and then so happen you notice something with your eyes. You happen to notice something with your eyes. Then this time, you notice it. Seeing. If you notice like that, you begin to pull the mind back again into the mind and notice the seeing process. And you notice the seeing process. You notice seeing, and then after that, sometimes feeling arises. You notice feeling. Sometimes pleasant arises, sometimes unpleasant arises. You notice it. From that seeing process, it goes into feelings, and sometimes it may goes into certain thoughts, some certain mental process. So this is how we begin to notice the mental objects in the terms of conditioning. But a lot of times when we do that, we forget to note the seeing process. We fall into the object itself. We fall into in a way, we fall into the perception itself, the nimitta itself. Then we conceptualize. You see a book, automatically the mind think of it as a book already. It's already conceptualized it as a book already. In the seeing process, sometimes when you pay attention, for example, especially the eyes, you begin to notice sometimes the eyes doesn't focus on the object that well. Kind of like a bit blurry, and your attention is actually goes into the seeing process and just noting on the process at that moment of time. So once in a while, if your eyes get blurry, no problem. There's no problem with your eyes. So don't be too hasty to go back and check your eyes. It's just a process. Yeah. It's just a process because this time, a lot of times, when we notice that we are trying to pull the mind back into the body and here, here and now, rather than outside. Uh, uh, so this is how you noticing the mental objects and the nimitta. So here you must be skillful. As I said, one of the skills of a yogi is to able to differentiate between what is an actual vipassana object and what is the conceptual object. Because this conceptual object or this nimitta can be so real. If your mindfulness is not powerful enough, you cannot cut this through, you cannot draw a line between it, it's just going to overlap. And you do not know which is which, what is what. So the mindfulness and the precision of the noting has to be strong and powerful. All right. Okay, the next one. Okay. The next question. How to identify mind and body objects during sitting meditation? Any special characteristics in them because both of them changing rapidly? Okay. How to identify between the mind and bodily objects during sitting meditation? Any special characteristics in them because both of them changing rapidly? Yeah? All right. So how do you differentiate between a mental object and a bodily object? Okay. It depends on what level you are. Or especially in the beginner's level, it's easier for you to differentiate between what is mind and a bodily object. But if you go deeper into the vipassana meditation, then not to say that you cannot, but in the deeper level of meditation, you don't think about our object that what is going on. Because at that moment of time, process is going very fast, changing rapidly. And it moves between like mind, body, sometimes mind, sometimes body, and everything is just arising, passing away, or it come, it goes, it disappear, it come again, here a little bit, there a little bit. But your continuity of your mindfulness is still perfect, is still at the optimal level. Things are still very clear. Well and good, but at that moment of time, you don't think, you don't ponder whether this is mind or body. Because the moment you stop and think whether this is mind or body, your whole noting mind stops for you to think. Just to know, hey, am I noting mind or body? Then that means you already chop your mindfulness, your continuity of mindfulness at that moment. So that is not very good actually. What you should do is just surrender to the moment, pay attention to it, see how they change and what is really going on. Because at that moment of time, taking a mind or a bodily object does not matter because all of them are prominent objects. All of them are prominent objects. As the more that is prominent to you, you just touch on any objects, the whole mindfulness is just carry on. The continuity of the mindfulness will go on its own. It will go on its own. So you don't have to worry which one is mind and bodily objects. But of course, after the meditation, after that particular sitting, for example, you come out. You come out now, you think about it, fine, it's still okay. Sometimes you may need to report, If not, sometimes sometimes in the reporting, we want to define it a little bit clearer. for the teachers to hear. But for me, if you don't define it, I also know what you are doing already. But other teachers may not so. But then that one is secondary. That one is secondary. What is the most important thing at that moment of time? You got to just trust again your mindfulness again and again to see whatever that is changing at that moment of time. So that time we don't have to know what we don't have to think of what is mind and body. All right. So that one we put aside. Now we look at the beginner yogis. Now in the beginning yogis, then it's good that we know what is mind and body, at least conceptually. Yeah, at least a little bit of concept of to know what is it. Now in the text, all they say, how do you differentiate between the mind and bodily objects? A mind object is the object that cognizes. English, the cognizes, because I have a hard time even, they use the word cognize, or actually the word knowing. Whereas the bodily objects, it does not cognize, it does not know. It is being known by the mind. Okay, it's being known by the mind. Right? So the body cannot cognize, the mind can cognize, or the mind can know, the body cannot know. So in other words, every of the states of mind, whether you are sleepy, whether you are drowsy, or whether you have a lot of thoughts, thinking, and so on, even when you are paying attention, even you are very precise, or you are not so precise, every part of it, there's always a knowing behind it. There's always a knowing behind it. But the thing is that this part of the knowing in the beginning part of the practice also sometimes it's a little bit difficult to catch on it. So what a yogi should do in the beginning process is that you begin with a bodily object first, as much as you can. Say, for example, if you're a total beginner, you should dwell into bodily objects for like 80% or 90% of your time in the beginning part of your meditation. Because the bodily process or the bodily objects, they are grosser object, they are clearer object compared to a mental object or mind objects. So let us start with the bodily object first. So you take note of your heart, soft, warm, cold, lifting, pushing, dropping, and you notice those things again and again, which is good. So there are 10-20% of it, you begin to notice a little bit of your thinking arises, sleepiness arises, seeing, hearing, even like pain also. But pain here, a lot of times in the beginning, it is connected with the body. And so we just categorize that as a body also. Although, strictly speaking, pain belongs to the mind because they are feelings. But because connected to your buttock there, connected to your pain, the knee there, just put it as this one because it's so obvious. So take those objects first which are obvious to you. You take those objects obvious to you, you build up on that mindfulness. As you build up on that mindfulness day after day, then here when the mindfulness become clear, then the mental objects become clear to you also. So that means you begin to notice how the thinking process taking place. The thinking, or sleepy, drop, and then you can see that how kind of like they disappear, or how the sleepiness disappear. You begin to able to notice the state of mind. Sometimes also you begin to notice the mind that is actually know something. Like for example, sometimes yogis, they tend to like lifting, pushing, dropping, lifting, pushing, dropping. And then it's like somebody like out of the body experience, as if like you can notice the mind that is observing the feet. You notice the feet itself, and you notice this person like, how come got three? So sometimes yogis notice it like that. It's actually all these things are mind made only. They are all mind, not mind made. They're all minds only. Yeah? They're all just awareness of what is going through or what is happening at that moment of time. So that time you can able to differentiate between what is mind and what is body. Sometimes within the rising and falling itself, they notice the rising and falling become clear, and yet they notice that the mind that is watching the whole rising and falling. And sometimes the noting notes the knowing mind, or the noting mind, or sometimes the noting mind notes the rising and falling. So sometimes you go through and fro, to and fro, to and fro. Yeah? So that time you notice that you can able to differentiate between the mind object and a bodily object. Yeah. So as I said, this in the beginning aspect of it. Then you notice of it, then it's well and good. In the beginning part, you can able to notice. In the deeper level, you don't have to think about it anymore. You just have to go with the flow, keep on noting and noting and noting. Right? Okay. Next question. Bhante, you mentioned that Tina, sloth, affects the consciousness, and Mida, torpor, affects the mental factors. Both comes together uh, and disappear together, but in actual practice, one is stronger than the other. Can you elaborate more on this? Okay. You mentioned Tina, or sloth, affects the consciousness, and Mida affects the mental factors. Both come together and disappear together, but in actual practice, one is stronger than the other. Okay, so for those who are not here, for the past few days, I've been talking about sloth and torpor. Yeah? And I mentioned that sloth and torpor is basically our dullness, drowsiness of the mind. But if a yogi pay attention to it carefully on this drowsiness, then they may see different shades of sloth and torpor, different shades of drowsiness, sometimes or sleepiness. But I advise you all, those people who just come, don't do that yet. Because no matter what you do, you're going to sleep anyway. It's not going to be clear, yeah? Because the mindfulness is not so clear yet. But this time, as I said, as you go into 2 or more weeks into retreat, mindfulness is a bit more sharper, clearer. Then you can actually able to differentiate the different aspect of sloth and torpor. Now, certain type of sloth and torpor, it comes in like very heavy type. So sometimes it's very heavy. Sometimes it comes in as like your clarity or your lights is getting dimmer and dimmer, and things get covered. Yeah. Sometimes it feels like when you're noting something, you're noting, and then you find that there's a dip of the power of the noting. Now it comes in as a dip already. And then when it's coming at the dip, then you notice at the background a little bit of laziness of the mind is already picking up already. Yeah? Because you're sharp at that time, you're clear. So there's a dipping in the noting aspect of what is going on already. Okay? So you see there's a different aspect of sloth and torpor. Not all the time sloth and torpor, as I said, you sit down, you get nodding of your head or very heavy type of sleepiness. Sloth and torpor can be just like you're lazy, mentally lazy. You can be sitting and walking out. Or externally, people look at you, you are like, wow, ideal yogi. But internally, you just, you're not really sharp, you're just walk on here, sit on here, yeah. So sometimes the mind can be quite lazy, yeah. Yeah. So uh, anyway, what I'm trying to say is that during this time, sometimes in the actual practice, sometimes one can be more predominant than the other one. Okay. Sometimes both can be predominant also, Mm. Because when you are drowsy, so heavy, so which one is coming first? You don't know. You just go into drowsiness already. Yeah. So, but certain times when you are sharp enough, you can able to notice there's a different shade of it. So, with a little bit of understanding in Abhidharma, yeah, then at least we know what is going on now. Okay. Only if you can match these two, sometimes your theory is one part. Although you see something also, you notice something, but your theory and your this ones cannot match one. You still do not know what's going on after a while. But doesn't matter. Theory, if we put it aside a little bit. Now, in the practice, sometimes you notice that if your consciousness or your alertness of your clarity of your mind, that like suddenly it becomes slowly or gradually it begins to like darken, heavy. Mind is not like alert, in that sense. The knowing itself is like getting darker, heavier. Then it's more like a thinner that's affecting you, more prominent, a slightly more prominent. Uh, Then on the mental factor side, on the mida side, which is affecting the mental factors, then for example, like when you are noting an object, you're clear. Then when the tina mida, especially the mida comes in at this point, it affects the noticing function. In other words, it affects the mindfulness, it affects that precision, that noting, it affects the concentration, it affects everything. That means they begin to dip, the whole noting mind begins to dip. That you cannot that it's dipping already. You know that you're not in 100% at that moment of time. You know that it's just like that only. And then you know that it's Mida is coming, theoretically speaking, if Mida is coming. So this way we know that there's a different aspect of what is going on with the mind, with the sloth and topper. Sometimes also like Mida also, it's also like when your head is drooping. When your head is drooping, when your body is tilting forward, and it affects the body also. That is also another type of, that is also in the sense that Mida, it's also reacting on at that moment of time. Uh, uh. Sleepiness also, now you all get interested, which is good. I know. But it is important because, as I said, it comes in every retreat that you're going to go through. So you may as well learn something about it, learn how to overcome it, and once in a while we know a little bit on it deeper. It makes meditation more interesting. It makes them everything, the meditation more interesting. Yeah? And when you have these things, what is important is that you gain the confidence. You gain the confidence of overcoming these hindrances. And you're able to learn to overcoming these hindrances. Then next time when they arise again and again, you don't get too frustrated. Yeah? You don't get too frustrated and so on. Um, okay. So this is a bit on the Tinamida. All right, the next one also is on sloth and torpor. During sitting meditation, relaxation sometimes causes sloth and torpor. May I know how to strike a balance so that the mind is relaxed and the sloth and torpor is not set in? Okay. Okay, let me repeat. Um, During sitting meditation, relaxation sometimes can cause sloth and torpor. May I know how to strike a balance so that the mind is relaxed and sloth and torpor will not set in? Okay. Now this one, usually, the word relaxation that you mentioned here, that can be a bit tricky. What do you mean in the sense of relaxation? Now, sometimes what a yogi did, or what a yogi goes through, during in the sitting, for example, during in the sitting, some sort of like calmness comes in, or some sort of peacefulness comes in. When the peacefulness starts to come in, then the mind feels good. The mind feels pleasant. As if like to you, you call it relaxation. The mind feels a bit more peaceful, a bit more calm. And then at that moment of time, you do not want to exert nothing anymore. You just want to like there, just want to like sit there, pleasant, nice, rising, falling a little bit, not much pain. The body is feel good, just sit there because it's peaceful. And then you leave it like that. You leave it like that, and then energy starts to drop already. Your mental energy starts to drop. Then you don't realize that your sloth and torpor, after a while, it starts to pick up already. Then after that, you get drowsy and drowsy. Now, that's one way of how people relax. Or sometimes there are once in a while, there are some yogis that they meditate. Enough already lah. Sit there for 45 minutes already, nothing much. Then they sit there, just relax for a while. Then that is where it starts to get into sloth and torpor short while. You're going to build up. So where do you find a balance? Where do you find an optimum that your mind is relaxed enough and yet it's not too relaxed? And then here, this thing, it's a lot of trial and error on the yogi. There's no perfection of it, one and all. Make it very clear to you all. There's no such thing as perfection. It's all about dealing it at that moment of time, and you push a little bit here or push a little bit there. It's like cooking. Sometimes you got 5 ingredients. How much to put? Is it this one you're going to put more? This one you're going to put less a little bit? Or sometimes the fire. How much are you going to tune the fire? A little bit more or a little bit less? Again, here is a lot to do with your trial and error. You got to try until you get it more or less good. Sometimes during the lockdown at time, people begin to learn cooking from YouTube. Learn cooking from YouTube. Then they cook lah. You see the YouTube, quite easy huh? Then when you prepare like you never get it right. After you try a few times, maybe you get it right. So too, meditation is going to be like that. You know less, you know what to do. But at that moment, you just have to learn to push a bit more or push a bit less. Now, sometimes, for example, you need to relax the mind a little bit. That means you need to calm the mind a little bit. Because if you don't calm the mind a little bit, then you're going to overshoot and the mind goes into a lot of thinking. So you need to relax the mind a little bit. So here, the relaxation has to become calm enough that the mind don't go into a lot of thinking, and yet at the same time doesn't go into a lot of drowsiness. And that is a trick. That's the trick that what are you going to do at this moment of time? Say, for example, if your mind becomes too relaxed, and you know that it is beginning to relax already, and you check on your own, are you still able to note your objects clearly or not? If you're not able to note your objects clearly, that means you already pull it too much already. You pull down the relaxation too much already. You see start to calm the mind a bit too much already, because now the object is not clear to you. Now the object is not clear to you. It's there, but it's not as sharp as before. Then you know that it's not this one. So what you do is that you're aware of it. You're aware of the state of mind, and then here all you need to do is that put a bit of effort, not your rising and falling, not your sitting and nudging, just to pick it up again. Just before you go into too much, because if you go too much, especially you go into too relaxed and you go into drowsiness, that is sometimes a bit more difficult to pull it out from there. That is a bit more difficult. And sometimes, if you were to push, say for example, at that time, your mind is like a bit, it's there, but not clear enough. It's not so clear enough. So when you put a bit of effort into it, so this time when you put effort into it, then you push it a little bit more until your object is clear enough to see. But then you got to be patient, because sometimes our yogis are not patient. They could push some more, keep on noting. Wow, it's clear already, huh? I want to see more. I want to see more. Then you go, you push into it. Then after that, a lot of thinking starts coming in. The mind goes into all kinds of thinking already this time. So what you should do is that you push it enough already. If there's a little bit of thoughts coming up already at the background, then more or less you know that slightly too much already. So in a way, again, you reduce that one until things become clear to you. Until things become clear. Not too much of thinking, not too much of relaxation, and things are just going, changing or whatever is going on over there. Sometimes yogis tend to overpush. Overpush, that means when they see an object, it's already clear, but they want it to be clearer some more. I want it to be clearer. I want it to be clearer. I want it to be clearer because time not enough. I want to go back already. then they overpush. And then overpush, you then end up with a lot of tension. So here, when object is clear, just be patient. All you need to do is just keep watching it at that level, and that level of clarity. If you just note it, it will become clearer and clearer for you. Sometimes, like in cooking, also the same thing. You cannot make it very fast. If that dish, you need to steam it for 5 hours you got to wait lah. You got to turn on the light. You got to turn on the fire in the right amount, and then you got to wait for 5 hours. Then only it's become good. So to meditation also the same thing. When it become clear already, don't go and overdo it anymore. Let it come. But this one, it's very conceptual, You have to feel it for yourself. Although as much I can tell you, which also in the coming days when we go into the factor of concentration and tranquility about that time, then we're going to talk about the balancing part of it also more detailedly, because the balancing part is again it's a part of a skill that we have to go through it. And this time a lot to do with trial and error until everything gets it right. Uh, uh, so, so it's something like that. So, all right, next one. Next question. Let me see. The Buddha recommended monks to eat 1 meal per day in the sutta. Nowadays, it is widely practiced by monks other than, no, sorry. Nowadays, is it widely practiced by other monks other than the forest tradition? If not, why? The Buddha recommended monks to eat 1 meal per day. Nowadays, is it widely practiced by other monks other than the forest tradition? If not, why? Yeah. Well, sometimes what we read now and what we know from what you read in the Facebook or your internet or even in the books, it may be sometimes quite different from actually when you are staying in the actual forest tradition, in especially the Thai tradition. You may read ideally, but you try to go and stay there and see. Now, when the Buddhas use the word 1 meal per day, of course, during the Buddha's time, uh, uh, monks go out for pindabat or monks go have dana. Okay, allowable to eat is after dawn. After dawn, wherever you are, and until the midday. Here in Peninsular Malaysia, not counting Sabah and Sarawak, and Singapore also. Here in Peninsular Malaysia, our midday can be from 1 p.m. to about 1:30, sometimes up to 1:40. Midday, you know. And then the dawn can be from around like, I think around 6:45, 6:30, 6:45, and then up to after that, So within this time, you're allowed to eat. You're allowed to eat. Okay. Now, eating 1 meal per day, sometimes because the monks go out for pindabat, one time only they come back. But when you eat that, as long as the food in the bowl, you don't have to sit down at one time and finish everything. You can like finish it a little bit, later on you go and do something else. Before midday, you can still eat in the same bowl too. It's not a problem. You can still do that. But there are also monks who are practicing like a dutanga, that they sit down and they not move already, and then that means they finish everything, whatever there's inside there. Or even they don't finish. They don't finish, but after that they don't eat anymore. There are also some dutanga practices like you sit down already, everything is offered. If you come late to do an offering, the monk will not accept anymore. There's also another type of dutanga practice. So that one is another thing altogether. But there are sometimes also some monks also still practice 1 meal per day. Sometimes they just take only breakfast and not lunch, and some take lunch only and not breakfast. Now, sometimes there are places that I earlier mentioned, as I said, that although they take 1 meal per day, but you have to see that what they are taking in the afternoon or evening, what is allowable in the evening, all right? What is allowable in the evening, that's a matter of debate. Even in the Vinaya, there's a matter of debate, depending on tradition. Now, in certain tradition, in the afternoon, you can have quite a large afternoon tea, quite a big one, Because they can allow, sometimes they can allow uh, cheese, different type of cheese. Yeah. They can allow coffee, some places. They also can allow like what else? There's another one. Soya milk also. Uh, the Buddha also did mention what is allowed in the afternoon. A few things, like molasses or ghee, uh, sugar, those type of things. And these type of things can make you very full on, if you take cheese in the afternoon. You can take cheese in the afternoon, you can feel quite full, as if like a meal itself. Uh, uh. So there are in other places also the same thing, that they mix all these allowable things like gila, molasses, everything. They burn, stir. They call it the chatumadu. Chatumadu, the four things inside there. There are four things. Then you take one scoop only. One scoop. Oh, you feel. It's suddenly all your energy is half an hour only. The whole energy build up, right? At least you can still got 1 hour or 2 hours to meditate before you call it that day. Yeah? Yeah. So some places they do that. So again here, it's not really the one meal per day. It's a matter of how much greed you have. Yeah, how much greed you have. It's not about how many meals per day. And also, if you take, let's say, a breakfast and a lunch. So, what is the purpose? You must know your motivation of doing it. What is the purpose that you are doing it? Is it the purpose for sake of greed? Or is it just for the sake of you need the energy to meditate? Because here, we need the energy to meditate. If let's say there's no breakfast here, I ask Sister Sam to stop breakfast. Then we eat until what, 11:30. By 10, 9 or 8, 9 a.m. in the morning, you already puncture already because so many hours you didn't take, no food. So a little bit of food in the breakfast, then give rise to some energy. Then when you take lunch, you have that energy to last you for the whole day through. It's the purpose that is more important. It's not how many meals it's going to take. You can take 5 meals within the beginning and the middle also, if you want to, if you want to. But what is the purpose again? Again, here is the purpose. So not only just the forest tradition, and there are other places. There are monks also are still taking 1 meal per day. All right. Next one. What's the time? Now, the next one. Seeing highly respected monk spend time managing his pets. A friend said she rejoices in his happiness. I just didn't feel any sympathetic joy or mudita, instead heavy heart seeing this. Then I contemplated, we are owners of our own karma. Am I too judgmental and lack of acceptance? Sadhu. Seeing highly respected monk spend time managing his pets, a friend said she rejoices in his happiness. I just didn't feel any sympathetic joy or mudita, instead of heavy heart seeing this. Then I contemplated on, we are the owners of our own karma. Am I too judgmental and lack of acceptance? Well, before I talk about you, let's talk about pets first. When I say monks with pets, there are certain places, the pet is tiger. You know where is it? Their pets are tiger. Yeah lah. But of course, nowadays it's a kind of controversial thing lah, with the government and so on. Well, the thing is that, you see, being a monk, as a monk or a nun, it's always good to give up all these type of things, because if you have these type of things, then there'll be a lot of responsibility that you have to look into it. But nevertheless, sometimes that there are certain monasteries that you still need dogs to be around also, and they are good caretaker of the monastery. Certain monastery that I know of, that when they have dogs around, your monastery don't have that much of snakes, because they can feel or they can smell the dogs are around, so usually they don't come. But too many dogs can be quite a nuisance. Then too many dogs, you have to take care of them, and they fight and they bite each other, or they go out, when they're mating season or their mating calls, and then they go out and then they fight with other dogs for the mating rights, and then they come back with all kinds of bloodied, biting here and there, and then you have to go in the take care of them, go to the vet, and so on. So there is also kind of a tedious thing to do, because sometimes in certain monastery we don't have that many devotees. After all, it's usually monk stays only. So sometimes dogs can be helpful. But if you're over attached to them, then a problem already. Just like sometimes devotees they bring all their dogs. They love their dogs so much. Or cats. Or cats, or whatever their pets are. Sometimes I say that, you see, since you love your dog so much, why don't you do something wholesome? Let the dog do something wholesome. Maybe you can offer a rope lah. You can, sometimes a human being, you can, the parents, they can hold the child of a hand to touch the ropes, and then you offer. You can use your dog also and offer something also. And then next life also, at least do something good and then reborn in a better plane of existence. You love them so much. No. But of course, certain places, they don't allow you to bring all these type of things, depending. But anyway, it all depends on the condition of the monks or the places there. Some people, they need the dogs because it's helpful. Some people, it's just a matter of attachment to the dogs. So whatever it is, you be careful of your own state of mind. If you're not careful with your own state of mind, you become too judgmental, then that will be your problem already, your own mental karma already this time, So let them be. Let the monks do whatever they feel that is needed, because the needs may be different from you. May be different from you. Certain times also, when I stay in certain places, I have to take care of the dog also. You give them a bit of food, not overly take care of them, but sometimes you got leftover, we give them a bit of food. And then when you take care of them a little bit, sometimes when there are people come to the centers, they begin to bark. Then you know that somebody is there. At one time, I was staying in a certain kuti. The dogs were barking a lot. I came out to see what is it. It was a cobra taking up the head there. But the dogs didn't go near, but I'm kind of aware that the snake is already there. So it is helpful in a way. But of course, for me, I just chase the snake away only. That's it. I go another place and don't. As I don't see my eyes, it's okay with me. You may have Anyway, staying in the forest is like that. So there are sometimes there's a need for it, sometimes there's no need for it. It all depends on how much of the attachment of the monk towards it. But a lot of times, as I said, as a monk or as a nun, you make sure, or even as your yogis also, don't go and attach the dog, even if you're single. So nobody at home, you're going to have a dog. You're going to have a dog, you cannot come for a retreat already. You're going to send your dog for something somewhere. Even some people, they don't have dogs, but they have plants. They have plants. Then also they can, see, I'm going to go for a retreat. How my plant all died? Then they got to send the plant to somebody else to take care. Hey, water for me. Yeah. Yeah, so those are the things. So be careful. Those type of things can be a hindrance to your practice. As long as it doesn't hinder your practice, then well and good. And then as long as you don't judge them, then well and fine. Next question. Okay. This one is a bit longer. This one is from the earlier part, from all the yogis here, but the next one is from the Zoom audience or the Facebook audience, or YouTube. Question 7. Since my children started back to school, I felt like my meditation slowed down or stopped. The mindfulness dropped. It is difficult to build up during meditation, even I incorporate with metta meditation also, or two. When the body felt better, I tried to meditate starting with metta. The mind automatically switched to vipassana objects when the sensation on the face arose. The neck became tightened as I noted it, then slowly it disappeared. And it's slowly disappeared. Okay. Mouth became tighter until painful. I noted it as pain. At that moment, I realized that the left knee and the buttock also become painful. So therefore, the three objects also became clear. While I noted the knee pain as pain, at the same time, the mind also aware of the mouth become tighter as well as the buttock pain. Okay, am I doing this correctly? Okay. Now for the first one, since the children going back to school, I felt like meditation slowed down or stopped. The mindfulness dropped. It's difficult to build up during meditation, even with the incorporation of metta meditation. Now, when you are meditating at home, it is not as easy that when we meditate in the retreat. It is definitely not easy. And if you're a family person, if you're a mother, then a lot of chores you have to do, a lot of responsibility. You have to take care of the children, the school, you have to take care of the food, you have to take care of the household, and so on. There's many responsibility. Even you are single also, easy, man. So it's not that easy also. There's also, again, there are chores for you to do. There are bills to pay. There are maintenance to take care of. There are things to look here and there. There are relatives to there are wedding to go. These type of things you got to be responsible in a way. So definitely, whether you are a married person or whether you're single, then there's a lot of things that it's not easy. If it's not in a retreat, it is not easy. Even for monks also, if we stay with our normal center, we're also very busy. Then this devotee lah, then that one lah, then maintenance lah, then chanting lah, then dharma talk lah, then this and that lah. Then cannot meditate also. Like here also I cannot meditate that much also because all of you are. Because all of you, it's a responsibility. There's a responsibility. Then the mind cannot come down. If I were to do a retreat, Then at night, no Dharma talk already. Then how to talk? Mind cannot think. You think can just switch from just noting clearly and then suddenly start thinking. No, it's difficult. Yeah. And then not only that, but there are a lot of background work that we have to do. A lot of things that we have to discuss with the management, this and that, in order to get the retreat going on smoothly and now safely also. That's also another big deal, to take care of. So it's not easy. Yeah. So that's why even for us, we want to go for a retreat. We give up on all these kind of things. We go for a place. There's a place for us to walk, sit. Then we build up again on the meditation. Yeah. So we can understand. So it's not as so even for monks also it's not easy. Yeah. But it's easier for monks or nuns just to give up and pack the bags and go. That is easy for us because we don't have bills to pay, we don't have this to attend and that to do. So we just want to stop. Okay, within a day or two, we just pack our bags and just jalan already. Yeah. That's okay. Okay, the next question is this. Um, when the body felt better, I tried to meditating with metta and automatically the mind switched over to vipassana objects. Then sensation on the face arose. Then the neck became tightened as I noted it. Then it slowly disappeared. Okay. The mouth became tighter until painful. I noted as pain. Then I realized that the left knee and buttock also become painful and the objects become clear. So at the same time, here at the same time, the yogis is noting all the three objects together. So here is the yogi noting it correctly. Okay. Am I doing it correctly? It is correct. It is perfectly correct. You see, first of all, the principle of vipassana meditation is to see things as they are. In other words, if it shows you in this way, you have to see it in that way, even as if like three objects coming together, because it shows you that way. You cannot have like thinking about cannot. I must have one object only at that one time. No, if you begin to think, then you already want to see what you want to see, rather than what is supposed is in front of you. Okay, so if sometimes there are some objects predominant at the same level, pay attention to them at one go. It's perfectly all right. But sometimes after a while, one of the objects become clearer. If this time, like for example, the knee pain becomes clearer, then notice the knee pain and just leave the other two at the background. You're still not aware of the other two, but now is the knee pain become more clearer, then just pay attention to the knee pain. But don't forget the other two, because after a while, sometimes the knee pain may just slowly, it reduces and then the other pain may arises, then you just change the other pains. And sometimes again, all the three becomes or four becomes clear again. So pay attention to them as they are. So you're doing it correctly. Yeah. Okay. Next question. Same person also. As a housewife, I can only attend one or twice short retreats per year. I know this will slow my progress. Sometimes I feel like a squeeze between responsibility and my vipassana goals. It is impossible for me to choose or let go of them. Bhante, please advise, what should I do? I've honestly speaking, I don't have much answer for this one. Because you choose that life. I choose this life, this type of life. Or you ignorantly choose that life before you know about Buddhism, maybe. Before you know about practice, you already gone into that life already. So with that, a lot of us may not able to let go of the responsibility. They have to take care of whatever that is needed. But if you still have your goals, well and good. Maybe you have to learn to balance between what I mean. The balance again, each and every one of us may be very different. So if you can, negotiate with your husband or negotiate with your parents or whatever, then if they can able to take care of the household and the children, then perhaps you can go for a retreat for a while. Maybe 2 3 weeks, 1 month. Then after that you go back. Then you plan again another time to go again. Sometimes they may feel a little bit more difficult that you keep on going, but don't be too upset now. As long as everything is still going well in the house, then okay. Not don't be too this one. When you go meditate, you truly meditate. When you're at home, then you do whatever that is needed at home. I've seen once in a while mothers with school going children. They come for a retreat. More or less, they can have like 2 or 3 weeks. Then after that, the children will be start calling their mother. Where are you? When are you coming back? Oh, you're then the heart shaken already. Heart shaken already. So as long as you come over here and you start to meditate and you put everything aside, then when you go back, you plan again. Then you plan again and you come again. All you need to do is make sure that at home everything is well taken care of. Then you come, at least your heart is more calmer. So I don't really have a proper answer for all these type of things. You want to actually, for all of us, you want to come for a retreat, you already plan already. You just don't walk in like that one, isn't it? even I say no COVID. You already plan in your head already when you're going to retreat. You know when is a retreat. You know when is planned. You know who is teaching. You know how long you want to stay there. Then if you come like with a flight, then you have to organize your flight, where to stay before that, and after the retreat, what you want to do. There's a lot of planning involved. A lot of planning involved. And with the COVID, it's even more planning some more. So there's a lot of planning involved if you want to go for a retreat. So, in other words, as a householder, and you plan that things are okay at home, things are well taken care. How much time you can go, plan and go and meditate, and then go back again. Then next time, plan again, and again, and again, and again until you die. All right, that's about it. There's all the questions over here. I know there's one questions, but they sent in late, one thing, and also it's a very long question, and also it's not so appropriate for this time. It's very technical. Anyway, that's about it for tonight. We share merits. We continue on Monday. Tomorrow, no Dhamma talk. Idang me bawanang nibbana sa pachayo hotu. May my mental cultivation be a condition for the realization of Nibbana. Imang no punya bagang sabba satanang dema. We share these merits with our departed ones, with all beings and all the devas. Sabbe satta sukhi hontu anumodantu. May all beings be happy. May they rejoice in these merits. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.